Oh yeah, I know all your Christmas meals are done, or Hanukkah meals too. That was there first. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Flobo Boyce, and this is Commander's Log, the unofficial Star Trek Discovery post show. Do I still say that now as we head towards the end of the season? How many Commander's Log will there be? But it is I on the USS Postshow, the cheapest number one possible. We're going over the Sukkot episode of Star Trek Discovery, also known as the Citadel, which really ticks me off because I had a Green Lantern reference ready to go because, oh, I had the Citadel there! But I am not alone. I'm being joined by, quote, a man who's really a Bajorian, but a human when he's on planet Earth. My anticipated input, Captain John Weber. How's it going, sir?
Oh, that's so kind of you. Flobo, number one, you're the best damn first officer in the fleet, and don't you forget it.
Well, thank you, sir. How's it going? How's your holiday? Did you eat the things? Did you drink the things?
We did a holiday ham this year, and hams enjoy ham, so...
Did you, eat it really loud? Like, hello!
I'm having ham now!
Chewing the scenery.
My 2021 promise to myself is I'm going to do more food prep and more cooking. And so at one point, my mother-in-law was like, I can't cut this ham. And I was like, I'll do it. I never do that. I never volunteer to be like the guy at the carvery. I'm like, I'll do it. And so I take it off her hands and I'm cutting ham, and it's not easy at all. And then she goes and she sits down, and I swear she does this. What's keeping that ham?
That's like an SNL sketch. Right. Hey, how's it going, Joshua? Joshua, friend of the show. Happy Hanukkah. Hope you enjoy I don't know, do you do the Chinese food thing? It's a very New York thing. Very New York thing on Christmas Day, Chinese food. I'm not sure. Because I know New York City Chinese food is this class of its own. I do it myself. It's all good. Yes, epic stuff to this week. We'll get into it. Like I said at the top of the show, this was called the Citadel before the egg went live. Sukkot was the episode because we had to see who or what Sukkot is. Before we get down to that nitty gritty, let me ask you, Captain, overall thoughts on this episode. Because the reason why I'm asking you up at the top is this. I liked it. A lot of things to pull from it, but it does seem like we're into another part one of another two-parter. And so much so, some of my friends have told me it was kind of weak. Agree, disagree?
Here's something not a lot of people would ever agree with me on, and that is that a lot of times the setup is a lot of work, and it doesn't quite get you satisfaction until you see the other episode. So, yeah, I could definitely see somebody going, I don't know, man. A lot of weird things happened, and not a lot of satisfaction came out of it. And of course, that cliffhanger, man. I won't get into it quite yet, but that cliffhanger is the kind of thing that gives fanboys the blue cojones. The cojones, I swear I know what, azul.
Azules, yeah.
Azules?
Yeah. So, wait, hold on. I can't tell if you're telling about this episode of Star Trek or telling me you love foreplay. Which one is it? Do you like the fact that it had a cliffhanger or like the fact that it was all set up to that cliffhanger?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to tease the final episode of this season of Commander's Log. My wife is going to be joining me in Flobo.
Oh,
and I'll tell you right now.
Don't show this clip. Don't do that. I just talk about foreplay. Now I feel terrible.
No, she won't see this clip. But she's got one of the coolest sense of humors you could imagine. She is not buying everything 100% the way I do. I'm like a dog who sees you come home. Hey, hooray, hooray, hooray!
Right.
And she's the cat who goes, wait a minute.
Right.
Why are you coming home now? Why didn't you come home sooner? Where's our food? She gets a little, and so I understand that, getting a little more picky and a little more I'm not buying everything right out of the gate here. And me, I can be bought with the little things, and there's so many little things. There's so many details. You know, the devil's in the details, but the angels are too. And I dug it. Long answer, cut down to short answer. I dug this episode. I'm not 100% in agreement with everything we might be seeing.
Yeah.
However, it's not unusual to see these things in Star Trek. I'll reveal a little more as we go, but just in an overall look, this is Empire Strikes Back for me. And I know a lot of Star Trek people don't like to mix their Star Wars and their Star Trek, but when Empire came out, my friends hated it. And I felt a little bit of that frustration too. I knew what they were talking about. But then when you see the third one, and you've got the first and the second and the third one, then you realize how great the second one was. So I hope we'll get to the point where people will remember this part one and part two as one big story that led into the final story of the year. Because if you watched Ready Room, which again, I watch every week, practically... so much great information from it. I'll also be peppering that in tonight. But yeah, I mean, it was. They are setting up for a big finish in the next two. Actually, this one too. So the final three of season 3, huge storyline, huge, and definitely the mold breaker for Discovery.
I agree. And I'm actually liking the season a lot more than season 2. But shout out to Jake Giles, man. Take 1812, our chief engineer, working hard on the USS Postshow. I mean, it's a bucket, but it runs because of you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Heart and soul of this ship. He's the Tommy Dreamer of this ship.
USS. So, look, I can go with storylines, but just because this episode was structured this way, we got to go at the head of the snake and go backwards. The cliffhanger here. Osiris shows up, and after a very lengthy game of cat and mouse, she actually does end up outwitting Ensign Tilly and the acting captain's seat. Yeah. And Discovery has been hijacked. Now, I have a question. I have lots of questions. People were kind of concerned about Osiris this season. They were saying, oh man, I'm not really intimidated by her look, and I don't understand what kind of person she is. Has she sold it to you? Is she the menace that a big bad is worthy this season?
Oh, that's a good question, because we haven't seen, we've seen her a lot on like monitors, and then we saw her kill her nephew, but, and you would do it again. That's what's so great about you, Jake. We've only seen just a little bit of her in person, and I tell you, I dig it, but I dig it because she reminds me of femme fatales that we've had in the past. There was that Romulan woman who was just, look, I was a young man when I was watching the original Trek, and oh my gosh, she was sexy. She really flipped my switches.
Oh yeah.
She had that like cat suit, that like Catwoman cat suit, and she had like the belts, the low slung belts. Oh, dude, the high boots. Oh, so I like Osira. Also, you get to see, if you watch Ready Room, you get to see an interview with the woman who plays her, and she is great. Yeah. She's so much fun. Yeah. You know what I'm saying, brother.
Hot pancakes.
So, Osira, look, I can understand people comparing her to other big bads, as we like to say in the being fans of thing business. We like to use that phrase. And I could see people going, well, she's no Gul Dukat. Look, there's a different kind of intimidation at work here. There are different people receiving the intimidation. It's not Khan versus Kirk. It's not, machismo versus machismo. It's this very sort of badass chick thing that Discovery is so great at.
Yeah.
So she's very much in theme with what we're going on. Now, personally, Flobo, I'm actually I'm thinking about maybe like going to these fan groups and asking like, what are the good episodes? If you don't like Discovery, then what do you like? Because I can understand them a little bit better. I guess I'm going to try to do that. Oh,
Well, it's
going
from what
into
I
the
can
swamp.
tell, and I guess this should be my new reference every week of how Star Trek fandom is like professional wrestling fandom. It's
Ah,
and I do it too. I try to watch wrestling in totality because I feel like professional wrestling is Shakespeare in the round. It is
yeah,
our globe theater, whatever
yeah,
you may feel that way it is. So I try to watch in totality. I have favorites. A lot of my favorites are deep cuts, but I'm willing to appreciate what it is. But there's always this like wrestling tribalism of like this
yeah,
brand, this person, this thing. And I really think Star Trek's that way too. Much like Saturday Night Live, we always think the episodes we watched when we were 19 were the best cast ever, and it
right.
always changes. But real quick on Osira though, when I first saw her, I was kind of like, oh, is that it, man? Like, I don't know. Because again, it really felt like she was being a space Karen. She's just like calling shots for the sake of calling shots. I didn't know what her killer app was. Was she super strong? Did she beat people up? Did she do mind control? It doesn't look very intimidating to me.
Right.
But what I thought was pretty awesome about it, and we saw it today, was she has that cunningness, right? She determined the fact of why Discovery was hanging out in space, just chilling out because of a planet of lithium and a spore drive, and understanding that Stamets runs a spore drive. Like, that to me tells me, okay, this is not the Red Angel. You're not fighting time. This is a whole different time bomb. I'm willing to accept this time around.
Right. In some ways, we are looking at the other side of the coin from Giorgio, from Philippa Giorgio. You're looking at a woman who is a survivor and a warrior. In the case of the Emerald Chain, you're talking about pirates and thieves. One of the things I love about enslavers, they're just as evil as it gets. Yeah. And one of the things that I totally dug about this is the history of the Orions being an enslaved people. And over the 900 years, they become like so, dangerous. The Emerald Chain is gangsters. They're the gangster version of Starfleet. So they're scary, man.
I just want to say the cold take of people who have slaves are evil. I appreciate that, John. I appreciate you feel that way.
Slavery equals evil. Look, one of the things that we take for granted in society right now is we're like, well, everybody knows slavery is evil. Do they, though? You gotta remind people how evil it is.
Especially in space. But let's talk about our progressiveness, right? So Tilly is sitting in the captain's chair, rubbing that nub. Wait, hold on. The nub in the chair. I realized as soon as I said it, that was terrible. I apologize. We're a family show. She was the nub, whatever. Point being.
Rubbing that nub.
Don't repeat it.
All right. See, now I gotta see a t-shirt of Tilly in the captain's chair with her hand over on that armrest, and it says rubbing that nub.
You know what? Point being, I was going to ask you how you think she was in the captain's seat. Did she quit herself well? Things she could learn? Just thoughts about that. But now I don't know anymore.
Here's a theory that I would like to propose. Actually, a theme that I would like to propose that we are really seeing in this season more than any other season. This season, more than any other season, I think we're seeing the questioning of top command. We have over and over again people who are in top command constantly being questioned by some of the people under them, almost always by the people over them. Admiral Vance is no different. I love that scene. Was it last episode or 2 episodes ago where he's talking to Saru and he says, take it from me. When I was green, I made a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
And I think that defines Admiral Vance. He is constantly thinking about his bad decisions. Burnham can almost never stop thinking about her bad decisions. Saru is being told, you might be making bad decisions here. And Saru being a very moral being is like, I don't think so, but I think it's catching up with him. It does in this episode. Right. And he constantly has to be warned, like, are you making this personal? Are you making the best decision you can make? And that's a great thing to have in Starfleet, because as a Trek fan, you're kind of used to, well, Starfleet is mostly right. There are these sort of like Tom Clancy-esque bad rogue admirals or rogue officers, but most of the time, Starfleet's great, and they always do the right thing. And now we've got a Starfleet that's groping their way through the future. They don't have the resources they used to have. They don't have the confidence they used to have. And shaking that confidence is a big part of season 3. I totally dig it. I think they're doing a great job. Did Tilly do a good job? Not as good as she could have done.
Excellent. Hot take. The guy who loves this show so much calls the Star Trek redheads disagrees. Tell me why.
She did not anticipate. She was only reactive. And that's not a command thing. And I know we pretend that I'm a captain, but
pretend.
You know, one of the things that people don't quite understand about command is that you're always going to have a loss. They say it in this with Saru. You know, does he understand that? Well, it's actually when Burnham is describing that little bolt that's under the handle that we're calling the nub. And when she's describing that, she's saying when all of your choices are bad and you've got to make the least bad choice. I used to see Earth Prime, or rather, you know, Prime Universe, Giorgio, touch that just to, like, mindfulness. That was the other thing I loved. Just to be in the moment. Just to, like, understand the moment. So, yeah, I love Tilly. You know I do. My poor family, we were watching the episode together, and Burnham tells her about the nub and gets her ready, and then Tilly hugs her, and my poor family had to listen to me go, Tilly hug!
You're that guy.
I'm that guy, because I love my Tilly hugs. Every episode has at least one Tilly hug. I freaking love them. I love her. I absolutely love Mary Wiseman. And I think it's very important to this story that she not get it right out of the gate. She's not even, at this point, she's not even as good as Riker. And she shouldn't be. Riker has a lot of years under his belt when we see him. Right. And he's already been a number 1 on another ship. So he understands command much better than she does. Also, she's an ensign. She's at the beginning of her journey. I was never, as you know, we've talked about this many times, I was never a person who was like, oh no, she's too low down on the chain to be a number 1. Because we all wanted her, Tilly fans, we wanted her right out of the gate. But I mean, let's admit it, she's still very low on the command chain. She has not had enough experience yet, and she wasn't leading. She didn't find a way to outthink. And you've all the number 1s in Trek. Chakotay's a great example from Voyager. These guys have a deep well of mistrust and analysis. And, you know, you don't take that calm unless you've got a little ruthlessness in you, and Tilly just doesn't have that yet.
Yeah. And that's something we talked about, too, when she was offered the position, whether or not she thought she was just more of a yes person. But, you know, I was surprised, not of the results, but how long it took to get there. Like, you know, someone, I mean, there's no way she can, like, outwit one of the most strongest galactic terrorists. And if she did, the show would be broken, right?
Exactly.
You're a 4th-string person outwitting the most dangerous badass. But I did give Tilly credit because there was, like, 2 scenes where she had Osira on the ropes. And then she just, you know, we had the resolve to put it back. Jake Giles actually says this, Tilly's experience really showed there. And I totally agree.
And it's good storytelling, because why would she be so great at this? Her attitude was good, but her actions were not great.
Joshua says the whole show is about being on a journey, a lifelong one. This is classic Trek.
Well, that's very fair, Joshua. That's extremely fair. Yes, it's a journey. It's a trek. It's a trek, man. We're taking that trek.
Oh, I get it.
So it's an internal trek as well as an external trek.
6 years later. Oh, by the way.
Well, honestly, this is the first time I ever thought that.
Well, that's why you're the captain, man. You're a genius. But let's talk about why Tilly was the acting captain. Because my man Saru was hitting down the away team, because captains on an away team is always a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Military standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
The Save the Kelpian, which has its own the childlike vibes, if you're a Mandalorian fan about that. Although I was kind of interested to see if the child was the actual specimen or the kelp-shotted monster was the specimen. Just before we get to the nitty-gritty of that whole storyline, let's walk me through this. The idea of this planet of dilithium, Sukal being the target, and this kid, I guess, 100-year-old man-child or adult child living in this simulation.
Yeah. I mean, you've had somebody who was raised by holograms, and now we're using the word hollow. I don't know how often that's been used, but I hear it a lot now. So, okay, holographic people are now called hollows. I hope that's not racist.
Well,
seems like it to me.
Offended.
Although I have to say, when any of the founders, Odo's race, call us solids, that doesn't bother me.
That tickles me, actually. That's all I got.
I mean, just the idea that you consider this big fat face solid, that's awesome. I can jiggle like Jello. Where were we?
Have you practiced this? I don't know.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, you know.
Oh, my goodness. You have a huge farm, too. I can imagine someone, the whole line of boys outside for your milkshake. No, Sukal. We're talking about Sukal.
Right. We're talking about Sukal. So Sukal is literally 125, 3 months. I can't remember the days and the minutes, but he is 125 years old. And he is only raised by like child rearing programs. And here's another thing. So there's this rite of passage that he's supposed to go through. It's not, according to Saru, a common rite of passage. It's just something that came up with for him in the programming because they knew no living person could survive to raise him. So he is still a kid. He hasn't gone through the rite of passage. And the rite of passage that it turns out to be is there's a story that Kelpians tell their children, and this monster is in the story, and they're supposed to face the monster. And because he's a child and he has no adult to hold him by the hand, he has no one to say, you have to face the monster until next week. When I'm sure that
until 7 days from now on CBS All Access. No.
I'm sure that'll happen. And I hate that. I hate now I know what has to happen in part 2 on that storyline. I hate knowing that much.
True.
But here's something that's very interesting about that. It's as if I programmed a bunch of computers and virtual reality to raise a child, and in all of that was the story of Little Red Riding Hood. And now there's a big bad wolf. That's what this monster is to Kelpians. So Saru isn't like, oh, well, I know what he needs to do because this is new to him. He's watching this child in a world that was constructed hastily, I think, for him. And it's been breaking down because this is the dilithium planet that they're on is so deadly. That's kind of cool too. You got a ticking time bomb here.
Can Sukal have the propensity to overcome great fear? There's no reference for Green Lantern. Okay, so there's no way they could foresee what was happening with this virus, but there are some parallels to pull from this. The fact that now almost everything is virtual. You go to birthday parties virtually, you take driver's ed courses online, you can do a lot of things online. It does seem the kids can learn themselves. You can have a child and try to be hoitier than thou and say, I let my kid use a laptop 20 minutes a day, but then when that kid goes to school, he's totally behind. So you kind of have to. I totally get that being pulled, but I guess what's tripping me out is, and maybe if I'm being too high school or college sophomore about it, is the shifting nature of our rites of passages, right? Because when my parents are not American, but around the time my parents were born in this country, at 15, 16, you got a license, and that was your rite of passage. But I got my license at 18 and a half because I had to, and I moved back home after college. Like, what was my rite of passage? So it's kind of interesting to see that in this Kelpian world where there's no Varahi at all, right? How do you make this person feel like they're of age? And that to me was pretty interesting that someone decided to make an actual digital villain.
Yes, and that it is responded to by Sukal as he never wants to see him. Here's something that is kind of extra from my experience. This has happened before in this series. Is my hearing's not great, so I always have the closed captions on.
I do too.
And one of the reasons why that's great is because you get to see the script, or at least the lines, not the descriptions, but you get to see the dialogue as it was written. I assume it's really close. And I don't know if you noticed, but when the monster is coming for Su'Kal, what it's saying is, see me. It's really hard to hear. And I've watched it twice now and gone, would I know that he is saying, see me?
Right.
But that's it. It's like, confront me.
Yeah.
You know, deal with me. And because Su'Kal, even though he's 125 years old, and that is old for a Kelpian, we do know that too. He was raised with, child programs. So he grew up with Reader Rabbit and Spy Fox and Freddy Fish.
Number Cruncher, yeah.
And they raised him, right. not living beings.
So I heard that the hissing from the monster, but again, maybe because I was just too cynical for my own good, I was like, imagine if the child was the program and the actual thing, because of the radiation, right? We didn't know how radiation affects someone. I thought maybe the monster would have been the subject, but now knowing that, I'm gonna have to go check it out again just to see that interpretation of it. But this whole idea, though, of having this away team of having Culber being Bajoran and human Saru, I mean, dope. And Trill Michael Burnham, I'm tripped out. What's going on with that?
First off, can I just say, they do talk about that a little bit on the Ready Room. And I just love this about Culber. I love Culber so much. His reaction was, oh my God, I had to sit in that makeup chair for like 2 hours, which is hilarious. But he was like, I mean, it's nothing like what everyone else has to go through. And also, I love the earring. I'm digging the earring.
Oh my gosh, how do you manage, Culber? Which I think, like the fact that this season you become like the Greek chorus of it all, like just letting us know, like he has to do it. He must do this because he literally died and came back, so he has all the wisdom in the world to handle this.
I love it. He is a superhero among this group, and he's Superman. He makes himself the savior as much as he can be. Now, maybe the writers are going to get clever and have that, hurt him in the end. That might be something that goes along with such a heroic, forward momentum. But at the same time, it totally makes sense. And you got the big breakdown with him and Stamets, because Stamets doesn't want to lose him again.
Right.
And there's Stamets going, you've got me, you've got Adira, you've got everyone. But right. Stamets has built this family in his head that he and Culber are the parents to Adira, and that Adira does need them. They do need guidance. But it's it's very much Stamets' thing, and it's just again, this is such a romantic show. I never knew I could feel this way, especially about a male couple. I never knew I could feel this way. I do. They brought it out of me. That's another reason why I love Discovery.
I'm always like, man, I like the fact that Stamets and Culber do have well, I can't say natural because Culber did die, right? the most natural romance. But sometimes I forget, they also, to their credit, they also put in some of the old married couple bickering sessions, to make sure. I think that gets to bolster it. So it is the most real relationship, I guess, in that way. It comes down to, because it isn't just I love you,
right.
You annoy me.
Yes. That relationships are steeped in the ability to annoy the other person or to grate on the other person, even when you don't want to, even when you're trying so hard not to do it, because conflict is conflict. And Gene Roddenberry didn't want that in the original show, but we're different people. We're a different society now. We don't need to have, and I'll never, ever let this go. Gene Roddenberry would put an old-timey Western fist fight in almost every episode. No one wants to see that anymore.
Why not? Dun, 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 dun. All right, is that the song? I have no idea. You're listening to Commander's Log, the unofficial Star Trek Discovery post show, right now live on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, and on YouTube. It's presented by Geek Renaissance. Hey, Christmas season is over, but you still got the holidays, still got New Year's Eve. You got whenever you can. So hit up Geek Renaissance at Geek Renaissance on Instagram. Make sure you get yourself some nice little keychains or a dope resin chess set at Geek Renaissance. You know, Captain, I got a question for you, and I've written it right here. Michael is concerned about Saru's objectivity on that planet. Makes you wonder if Spock had these conversations on the original series. Since you are the original series fan, talk to me.
I can't think of any offhand. There must have been some question. It certainly comes along in Next Generation when Captain Jellicoe takes over on the Enterprise for a short time. Ronnie Cox from RoboCop. Is Jellicoe, and Jellicoe's just one of those, why in the world would I ever go down to a planet? That's not my job. Number one, you go do that crap. I mean, I love the fact that it is seen as unusual for the captain to leave his damn post.
It should be.
And it should be. And in this case, it is extremely emotional that he wants to be there for this Kelpian.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, he's gone a long time without seeing any other Kelpians. I know they keep saying this, but it's not a small matter. Right. I keep thinking about that. You know, how would I be if I hadn't seen another person from Earth in a long, long time?
I was thinking Belgian, but yeah, Earth. And yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right.
I mean,
it's not to make fun of it, though. Like, okay, so I'm from New York, or Brooklyn specifically, and there are so many West Indian Americans or West Indian people in New York. Well, there's people in New York, period. But in our community, that I can hang out in Jamaican neighborhoods or Guyanese neighborhoods or Asian neighborhoods, no problem. But when I come up to Los Angeles, because we're so spread out, anyone from that region qualifies now. Whereas New York, I could be like, oh, you're from Tobago? Whatever. But I hear you're like, oh, snap, St. Lucia? You know what I mean? And that's just, it's the same country. Not a whole planet, not 9,900 years. It's a whole thing. So I can't knock Saru for trying to get a closer look, but I don't know, man. I felt like he was convinced to go. He was like, I should not go because I have emotions. Like, stop playing yourself. Come on down, Saru. Have your Barzan moment like Commander Nan did. Hit that ground.
I mean, and let's face it, it's lonely. It's lonely out in space. That's a line from "It's Lonely Out in Space," Rocket Man, by Elton John. It's lonely out there, and you do see the same people, and you want to be, you know, in your family, you know, because a lot of times the way you're raised up, man. I remember meeting a girl out here in LA. And it was just at work, you know, and she was a customer, and there were some other gals with her in her party. And, you know, I was this is back when I was driving for Uber. So I picked these gals up, and then I'll go into a party, and they make fun of this one girl, Jordan. And Jordan's like, well, yeah, I know. I'm just the stupid girl from New Hampshire. So we're driving along. I'm from New Hampshire. And everything quiets down, and then I go, Jordan, where are you from in New Hampshire? And she goes, a little town called Portsmouth. I said, you went to Portsmouth High School? The Clippers? She's like, yeah. I'm like, that's where I'm from. I'm from Portsmouth. I went to Portsmouth High School. Now, granted, like 20 years apart, but...
Did you guys have a handshake or something?
You know, it was, I started to talk about it, and then her friends, her female friends were like, so anyway, Jordan, blah, 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 blah. Like, they to pull her out of that as soon as possible. Like, I'm a married guy. I wasn't going to do anything, but, you know.
No, I think it's really more of like, how dare you give Jordan value? Ugh. let's go back to what we were doing before.
It might be. Okay, dude, I have to tell you this part. They were all going to the Playboy Mansion. They were all hotties, and they had I was really nervous about my seats because they were all airbrushed and topless.
Oh. If that does not sell me to go to New Hampshire when this pandemic is over, I don't know what will.
What was crazy about it was because I am, look, I'm the driver. I'm here to take care of them. So I didn't look.
Right.
I never looked at them.
Of course, you're a professional. Of course, I wouldn't look either.
Not
to be funny. Not to be funny. Oh yes, you also are married. You should look. You would never look. But not to be funny. But it's like y'all ain't getting me in trouble. I am putting my eyes on the road, bro. Like I'm not even gonna. Make sure you wear a towel. Not even looking. Yeah. I want to bring up the episode though before we get canceled for sure. It seems that we had a little mini second burn. Is Sukal the key, John?
Okay. All right. I saw a little bit of a spoiler before I watched the episode where somebody said, "Are you kidding me? We find out the cause of the burn and that's when I stopped reading."
Uh-huh.
So here I am going into the episode knowing I might not like the explanation of the burn.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I do not like the explanation of the burn. I do not like that Dr. Culber has to go, well, I don't know. If he grew up surrounded by this stuff in this weird environment, maybe he has powers. Like, It's as if he said maybe he was bitten by a radioactive kelpie. I don't know. Like, oh, that's so lame. He has superpowers. But on the other hand, because I do love this show, I will make excuses. And one of the excuses I can make is this. This reminds me of the original Star Trek. Do you remember Charlie?
No.
They find this young man, Charlie. And it turns out Charlie's got these weird powers where he can sort of bend reality. And then at the end, these aliens that are just like energy creatures come and they're like, time to come home, Charlie.
Yeah.
And Charlie is begging them like, no, you don't understand. They don't touch. They don't feel. And Charlie is this grown-up child, and he can't handle the powers that they gave him. It reminds me of where we are right now with Sukal, that maybe he has these. If he throws a fit, the burn will happen. I don't want.
Sure. That's a very common trope, especially with younger heroes. You could draw the parallels between that and puberty, or having powers, not know how to apply them, and all that. Jake Giles says the episode was named Charlie X. I will check
Charlie X.
Because I am the worst Star Trek fan ever. But I love Discovery, so but there's a question though. I feel like not so much as bad, or not so much as severe as the last season, but they kind of wrote themselves into a corner. I feel like it couldn't have been anything technological. It couldn't have been some weird plant you hadn't done. It had to be elements that were dropped from the series as it gone. And you could argue that this season they were kind of like very linear. Like, here is your data drive. Here's the project data. Here is the triangulated distress call. It had to be something involving the Kelpians. I mean, given that, what could they have possibly have done for it to be authentic to you? I'm just curious.
There was, in Next Generation, there was a storyline where warping was actually harming space. So all of the ships, no matter whose they were, that were warping around, they were having an environmental impact.
Deep.
That makes sense. We see that. We live with that.
Season 1. Remember, was like, the tardigrades, or the mushroom things,
Yeah, I mean, we've got what we have in our own reality is, fossil fuels are running low. So we understand this whole thing that they were going through, especially in the, in the light of Mad Max and the Road Warrior. It's like everyone wants fuel. It's all about the fuel.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. We understand that story.
I got a question for you. This is totally off topic. You know, like how there's like this push for electrical vehicles, and you know, like how you have like an iPhone and it still makes the clicking noise. Do you think they'll add in gas engines to make people like me feel okay? I hate the fact that I can get run over by a Tesla and you can't hear a sound. Like this ninja purist came out of nowhere and clipped my legs. It makes me feel a little weird. That's all.
You made me snort. That sounds right to me. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. I love planet Earth this much. No.
I think there is a lot of people like to harp on the idea of force of nature. Thank you, Jake. He said
he's been on the show.
we should probably think about putting him in the library.
Yeah,
I think he's wasting toilets.
Yeah.
We need a new toilet guy.
Take your training to Starfleet. You're all switched out.
This guy should be our librarian. We have a place where we are in terms of technology where I'm more comfortable with a hybrid engine because I'm putting gas in my car makes sense to me. So I totally hear what you're saying. I drove a hybrid for many years. When I was driving Uber, I was driving a hybrid, and now I drive all electric, and I hate it.
So I'm saving the planet, but I hate it.
Well, I mean, there's still that, like, look, in order to get electric power, you're still burning a lot of fossil fuels to get there.
Right.
You know?
Well, I feel better about it, though. What do you think?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not part of the consumption in a direct sense, but there's still some consumption going on, and we still haven't found the clean way to go. Just like they haven't found in the future a way to get around dilithium. Dilithium is still a big deal, and this planet is pretty much made out of dilithium, and I guess Su'Kal is a dilithium being now. It's weird, man.
Hey, man, radiation. So Jake Giles says promotion to Chief Science Officer. Why not? We don't have one.
Sure. Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, bro.
you got it.
Chief Comms is my job, though. Don't get that one.
Yeah.
Totally.
Don't go near comms. We're covered. Number one's got that.
So yeah, you actually make a good point about the idea of how dilithium has become this thing. It's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. It's been the key. It is very Crank 2 to say, I am the virus. You know what I mean? To have one person be the cause of this. But it is interesting to see how this power can be so emotionally charged. So now you have like this eventual dichotomy between the Vulcan aspect, the science aspect, the discovery aspect versus raw alien being, sentient being emotion, which, I mean, it'd be good television, especially with Osiris in the mix. Why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a context we can all understand in this day and age. And people want that power. If you've got the dilithium, you've got the power. Yeah. So, yes, this conflict is very well constructed. It makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, now that we've got an entire planet of dilithium, it's so like, we got to the end of the rainbow. There's a big pot of gold. Oh no, the green lady took us away from the pot of gold, but it's still there. I mean, it's, again, I'm kind of in a, I still like it though.
Yeah, you sound like me in Dexter season 7. Like, it's cool. Terrible. I'm still aboard. It's all right. The one scene, and this is me, the hack writer that no one reads my books, and you really should at Amazon.com put in Flobo Boyce on my books.
Read his books.
The one thing that really ticked me off, because I know it was just an Act 3 filler, and I want your opinion on this one because you could probably tell, Flobo, you're so wrong, you're such a square, is when Michael pretended to be a program. Well, Michael would pretend to be a program to sit with Su'Kal to see how he was thinking. And then, of course, there was that long, drawn-out thing. And it was like, no, wait, this program's wrong. I can't stand it. And I was like, wait, we're back at square one with no new information? That, to me, was a giant bait and switch. I thought that was definitely a thing to fill the runtime.
Yeah. I hate when they're going, well, okay, we're going to do a 2-parter. Ooh, I think we need some filler. But, there's always there was a friend of mine many years ago worked for a producer, and this producer was the kind of guy who would get scripts and then basically sell them to like Roger Corman.
Oh, wow.
This guy,
they'll get made.
They'll get made. But this guy wasn't in it, in the big powerful sense. He was a very low level kind of a dude. But my friend loved working for him and learned a lot. He worked for him for one summer. And one of the things that he came up with that this guy used to say, the guy would go through the first 10 pages of a script. And if there was any moment where the guy could be kind to someone and he wasn't, throw the script away.
Interesting.
This came up with the book Save the Cat.
Oh, save the cat. I got my own feelings about that, but continue.
But it is a simple principle. Show our hero being gentle and being thoughtful and caring and showing empathy. And that's not wasted time when you do that, because what you're telling the audience is this person is virtuous. This person feels like you. This person has feelings. And it's very important for a story to contain heroes that do that. Not every hero does that. Plenty of stories don't have this. It is a bit of a cliche, like save the cat, was the whole idea behind this, school of how do you write. But it is important to have that moment of kindness and sweetness. So that's how I took that. And it was a little bit of a mental game, which is very Star Trek. She's like, every time I mention I'm an outsider, this guy starts to freak out. So how can I continue this conversation by fooling him into thinking I'm not an outsider? So there's a little bit of Trek gaming there.
I'm not knocking the Trek game. I think it's pretty cool. But the thing is about Save the Cat, let me get my soapbox here. It's also, in a weird way, it's also the reason why I don't like Batman.
Oh, interesting.
This is definitely off a tangent. I know it's a Star Trek show, but when Save the Cat came out, it was revolutionary because it really distilled, the main thesis is that show compassion, get your characterization, page 25, we should know all the stakes. Every 3 pages, something should happen. Of course, it's more detailed than that. There's sequels or spin-offs, but that's just it. But the problem with that roadmap is everyone tried to replicate that. And now we have the postmodern Hollywood formula where we go, ugh. Now, movies like Iron Man and Doctor Strange buck that trend, but it's a Marvel film. We're already in the theater based on the merits. It's different. Now,
right. Jon Favreau didn't have to, when he wrote that stuff, he didn't have to prove he could write. Everybody knew at that point he could write.
Exactly. But my first film can't do that. Iron Man has to save a kid in a tree, or a cat in the tree, or give the kid back to a cat. I have no idea. But the same thing with Batman. Now, Batman is one of the greatest heroes of all time.
Yeah.
But to me, also the reason why he can't be any other color but white is that he was a paragon of white privilege. Old money, blue blood. If you didn't know him, you thought his life was perfect, rich guy. And then underneath this darkness of losing his parents, there is this desire for vengeance. But what happened was, in the 70s, or the 80s, Dark Knight Rises?
That was 1985, 86.
Right. And what we saw now was everyone just interpreting the bat. So now you have this rich character of the dualism we all struggle with as people with power and to do something. Just being flattened to being, I'm the knight, I'm the vengeance. So I can't stand half that crap. I really don't. But I think a lot of it's here too. We see a formula, we know it works, and so we keep replicating that formula to the fact it doesn't really come through. And that's my thesis.
Yeah. And I will let me write the foreword to that, which is to say, Flobo, you've got your hooks in this because what you're objecting to is the productization, the commoditization of a story. And what people need is they need to be, the best description I ever heard of a movie actually came from Siskel and Ebert, and they both agreed on it, which was they should be characters you care about who live in a world that you want to go to and stay in.
True.
That's a good story. You get those things going, you've got yourself a good story. And it may be really unconventional, but as long as you care and you want to be there, you're pretty much set up for success.
You hit the nail on the head. And people are saying, oh, Flobo, you're being so crazy in this. But, let's look at architecture. This is my last example. My last analogy, now move on, I swear. We talk about, fast food restaurants. Remember when McDonald's was, Playland, the Burger King had a separate vibe. It would look like an actual kingdom, and Roy Rogers looked like a Western thing. And what happened? Chipotle came. Chipotle changed the game, elevated the food quality, and now every new fast food restaurant is this giant gray box. Even McDonald's looks like it's grown up. Eating McDonald's for lunch, it's sad. So I'm not knocking the formula if it works, but we all can't do the formula. Let's go to a quick question though. Just that little bit that pulled to me this episode. whether by cloaking device or by design, the Emerald Chain had a Federation starship signature. Do you think that was just done for deception, or do you think there is some hanky-panky behind the scenes between the Federation and the Emerald Chain?
That is a fascinating question. My goodness, I never even considered that. Here was my initial thought, but I think you've got something there. My initial thought was, remember that Osira's nephew was running that planet where Book and all those other poor people were enslaved and working at this salvage yard. Was it called Salvage?
Yeah, I remember. The name escapes me now, but I'm with you.
And so you see, as sort of a like visual tease, you see like buckets of Federation badges, useless junk, just lying around. All this Federation stuff just lying around, because what happens in the burn is every ship that was using its dilithium blows up.
Right.
Now, they're not all blowing into a million pieces. Sometimes it's just the engine blowing up and the rest of the ship is out there and can be, salvaged. So I think they have salvaged enough Federation ships that they've used the parts in order to do things like send them a Federation response. We've got this computer that we saved, and it tells us all the secret codes and secret handshakes. So send that along. And I think that's how they got really close.
Okay.
And also, Osira has no, qualms about what kind of technology she uses. So they've got some badass stuff. One of the things that freaked me out in this one, and I hate it, I guess in a good way, because I always watch these movies, but tentacles.
Yeah, what's wrong with tentacles? Oh, I can see what's wrong with tentacles. I got you. That took me a minute. What's wrong with tentacles?
Man, why is it gotta be tentacles? I'm like Indiana Jones on that. Oh, yeah. Why did it have to be tentacles?
Well,
it makes sense. That's fine.
Yeah.
You ever watch?
It spins on a vertical axis. You need something to stop that.
Well, I mean, they were like, okay, so the last time you attacked us, we had a ship that couldn't maneuver very well. So we've solved that. The way we solved that was we got tentacles.
Yeah. Badass tentacles. I mean, mind control stamets.
And the mind control stamets thing. Oh, that was beautiful. What did they say to him? He was like, I won't help you. And then the guy is going to put the slave collar on his. Yes, what you want is irrelevant, which is so close to resistance.
This is futile. I know. I was like, wait a minute. It's like, it was a trademark issue. Was like Kurtzman's like, oh, we can't use it. Okay, fine.
Hey man, I totally dig it. I never minded when Paul McCartney sounded a little bit like the Beatles. Okay. Never mind.
Live and let die.
You're a spinoff. You're a spinoff. I totally get it. That's fine. That was pretty badass. So, she has, and she's a criminal, so she has no qualms about what kind of overpowered stuff she's going to use. They were basically able to crush the Discovery, completely boarded it, took everybody down. I was kind of assuming that Book and Burnham would get on board, and then it would be Die Hard.
Oh, that's gonna come certainly. But let's get
into Under Siege.
Next. Oh, jeez. Next week. It's I guess a 2-part, maybe unofficial. I'm not sure the naming conventions of this is, but it looks like it'll be the second half of what happened this week. Thoughts about what's going to go down, what you're going to see.
Look. What we can predict is it's a TV show. They're going to get their ship back. We can predict that. They're not going to lose Discovery on Discovery. We can predict that.
Discovery B or Discovery C.
Well, it's possible because, yes, one of the things I've always said was the worst thing that you could get as a captain in Starfleet is the Enterprise, because that shit's going to blow up.
Mm-hmm.
That shit blows up all the time.
Riker's
blows
like, you know what? I'm hitting that tighten up. At least that was more stable.
So I think Discovery is going to be okay. I think Discovery is going to come through. But one of the things that's great about this show is there's always a price to pay. Someone's going to lose something. And I don't know what it is. I can't predict it at all.
We already lost Linus. We haven't seen him in like weeks.
Don't tell me that. Because I swear I had a moment where I might cry.
Oh, he's not dead. He's okay. He went off to the farm. It's all right. Other Linuses and get lost. It's great. It's fine.
Oh my God, my eyes are watering up. Don't tell me that I might lose. Look, I know I love Star Trek redheads, but I do love Star Trek Lizardman. I think we'll a little
get
more.
Another one and call him Snoopy. Don't even worry about it. Don't worry your pretty head about it. Oh, it's that time, John. We got to get out of here soon. Got to beam off to the next planet. Just, final thoughts about what to do, what you're doing, what's going on in life, thoughts about the episode and the season. Hit me. Give me everything.
You and I have had this conversation quite a bit. For all of the guys who join us on this show and make comments and help us out, and for every guest we've ever had, what a tremendous snowball of friendship is rolling down the hill.
Aww.
And I have been so inspired by working with you, Flobo. I don't mean to be embarrassing, but you are so inspiring. You're such a hustle hard. You're what John Cena says he is.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Respect,
I'm a fraud.
Hustle. We can't see you. You have really inspired me. So once Discovery Season 3 is over, we're going to it'll take me a little while to get up to the speed where you are right now, Flobo, but I do want to produce like you do. And it's going to 2021 is going to be such a year for us. We're really going to bring the conversation to a wider audience, and that's fine because we're going to be talking about all of Trek. So everybody's got access to all of Trek. Sure. Right now, only us CBS All Access guys have access to this show. And there are people just now watching it on Netflix going, oh my goodness, this season 1 is incredible. It is. You're right. But, at some point, we're not going to be so far ahead of everybody else. Yeah. We're going to be right in the stew with everybody. So that I'm looking forward to that. Jake, yes, man, yes. We will get our boys together, our boys and girls, because and our everybody. We will get our everybody together on this because this level of conversation is so valuable, so inspiring to me, and it just ain't gonna end. It's going on. 2021. That's our year, man.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we'll talk about more of the finer details going on forward. But I think Commander's Law can be the home for the Kurtzman shows and everything else, Deep Space Nine, or even the animated stuff you can do on your eventual channel. Get more people involved. You be a giant party.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And the DJ knows. DJ knows how to do a party. Flobo's a DJ. You should hire him.
Yeah, please hire me. Please, I'll work wherever, man. Virtual parties here, bar mitzvahs. How about your boy? John, where can the world find you online, man? If they want to see what you're doing during the week on those social medias.
God bless Instagram. I haven't been there in a little while, but it's still great, and I still go back about once or twice a week. So if you ever want to hit me up on Instagram at Hello John Weber, there I am. Twitter, loving Twitter. Loving my Hello John Weber account on Twitter right now. Not any of my other 60 accounts, but this one is really paying off, and we're having a good time there. So be sure to hit me up on Twitter if you get the chance.
Which one's your OnlyFans?
I don't have an OnlyFans.
I thought we were a team. No,
that I know of.
I know, right? I just clip pictures out and do it myself. Goodbye, John Weber. No.
I put a Post-it over the camera on, but if I don't remember to put it on there, somebody might be recording it for an OnlyFans. Boy, are they going to make money. Yeah, there you go, brother.
It's about time I got out of here too. It's your boy Flobo Boyce. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Flobo Boyce, or also at Flobito on Instagram, Flobito.com. It's part of the New Amsterdam Entertainment Network. Learn more at newamsterdam.com. But until next time, Captain?
Folks, you're a damn good crew. Live long and prosper.